All right, welcome to a bonus episode of the Unfazed, Unedited podcast, where we provide commentary on complicated topics in an uncomplicated format. Lisa, this is going to be a gargantuan effort because let me
Yeah.
tell you, complicated topics, I mean, the essence of complicated, like the definition of complicated right now, given that everything is so fresh following the inauguration and all of the recent executive orders that were signed, what, 2 days ago, once you all hear this.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, the ink is wetter than wet on all of this.
hmm
And so, yeah, Lisa, I think it was a good idea for us to dive in because, of course, we're always juggling schedules and other responsibilities. And so, just pulling the curtain back just a smidge is
hmm
that we try to stay ahead of schedule on certain topics, but this one was one that just needed our immediate and fresh attention when it comes to all the things that have been signed by both outgoing President Biden and incoming President, I can't say his name because my mouth refuses to say it. So here we are, Lisa.
Yep. Here we are.
Let's give the rundown of what has happened in such a short period of time here.
Yeah. So I
A
texted
lot,
Shaunna earlier and I was like, I think we should do a bonus episode on the inauguration. Because there's
for
just been
sure.
so much. I don't want to linger too much on this, but and maybe this is a phase in another episode, but the former president now, Biden's pardoning or preemptive pardons to individuals he and others were concerned would be the subject of vengeful political prosecution. So the January 6th committee, many or if not all of the police officers that had testified in front of that committee, Dr. Anthony Fauci and some of his family members. And I know that there is disagreement about the utility or kind of value of doing this, but that was something big that happened, but it soon got subsumed by the inauguration itself. So Shaunna, did you watch it?
I intentionally did not watch the inauguration
Okay.
because I I took a stance a la Michelle Obama. I'm offended. I'm offended by his presence. I'm offended by half of the country. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore,
Mm-hmm.
I have a choice whether I'm going to turn the camera on or the TV on or not. And so I chose not to turn it on. Of course, it's hard to protect oneself from all of the resulting memes, jokes,
Right.
anything that might pop up from social media. So I did my best to guard most of it. And part of it was because, frankly, you know, I don't want, similar to the presence here in DC, the presence of actually being at the inauguration physically. I also did not want the technological presence of yet another person watching and then inadvertently shooting the rating sky high as if I'm in support of any of this. So, no, didn't turn my TVs on, didn't
Mm-hmm.
stream
Mm-hmm.
anything very intentionally. But also, too, keeping up with things that I know will affect my work. And so, obviously, when the executive orders start coming through, of course, I'm paying attention to that. But actually, physically seeing this man, absolutely not. No, not
Yeah.
interested.
I didn't actually watch it on television, but I was following along on my phone on news outlets. You know, they give you a
Mm-hmm.
blow by blow. And I was having a text conversation with another friend of mine who was she couldn't even articulate how horrifying it was. And then I did read the transcript
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like, okay, if I read the transcript, it's in my voice. It's not going to grate
Mm.
on me. But I did see pictures and memes, but some of the pictures from the event, I think, gave color and flavor to former President Biden's farewell address when he talked about the
Mm-hmm.
oligarchy, right? You
Oh,
had
yes, yes.
Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg,
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk, Apple, the Apple guy, Tim Cook, is that they were all there
Mm-hmm.
front and center at the inauguration. Um, and That
Owner of
felt different.
TikTok.
TikTok, yep. Yep. So that was really
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And they were right there. They were right there with the family and the vice president and everything. But
Intentional.
yeah, totally intentional, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the way I think about this is in 2017, his address, he either used the term American Carnage or it was dubbed the American Carnage inaugural address. And I feel like this is American
Mm-hmm.
Carnage 2.0. He just delivered
Mm-hmm.
it with a much flatter affect. So all
Mm-hmm.
of the terrifying things he was saying
Mm-hmm.
were hidden under a fairly benign and low key delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're saying that you're going to murder 1,600 people and you just say it like this, right? Versus, oh,
Mm-hmm.
right. He didn't say he was going to murder 1,600 people. But my point is the delivery, like
That's right.
like it was easy to miss some of the more alarming things that were being said. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't take any time to thank anyone and he just focused on himself. Apparently, Shaunna, you'll be happy to know this as someone who um has practiced in faith-based work, is he is indeed the Messiah who has been saved and has come here specifically to bring the United States back from the brink of an apocalypse. Did you know that? Are you happy about that?
Oh, I was not
I feel like,
aware.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was not aware.
You didn't get the
Interesting.
memo. You didn't get the
I
memo on that.
didn't I didn't get look, I happen to have one of many of my holy scriptures that I keep on my desk, and not one word of it has his name in it. Just wanted to be clear on that. Not one word of it.
Yeah. So
This
that just,
man,
I mean, he leaned into that shit, like leaned
of
into
course.
it,
Of
and I'm
course.
just like, yeah, whatever. So the other thing
Now,
that was
half of
really
that is who allows him to do that, though, Lisa.
true, that's true.
That is my issue with that. Is it's one thing when it's bad behavior. It's another thing when half the country allows and encourages and becomes stands of that behavior. So
Yeah.
you're only allowed to do that when half the country allows you to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I think there's a lot of folks who deeply believe it to be true. And then I think there are others who just wave their hand and be like, it's just Trump being Trump, whatever, right? They don't recognize. I feel like it's very challenging and um, very dictator-esque, right? Like I am your
Mm-hmm.
savior. But
Of course.
a couple of other things that I think is funny are funny but not funny is changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. That was in his
Mm-hmm.
address, and I know he'd previously said that. But I texted a friend. I'm like, is that even? Can he even do that? And I did research it, and I guess he can do that because there's no one
Mm-hmm.
international body that oversees the naming of international waters. And so,
Mm-hmm.
if he wants to change it within the United States, then he can go ahead and do that. But
Mm-hmm.
really, America's the continent, sir. So
Mm-hmm.
you really should change it to the Gulf of the United States if you wanted to be geographically accurate in your imperialistic tendencies. So,
See, when he's wrong, he's all the way wrong, girl. Don't you see? He's all the way wrong. I mean, he's trying to be so smart that he's stupid. I mean, like, really? Are you serious right now? And that's only law for how we will address that body of water,
right,
not for the
right.
rest of the
Not anyone
world
else.
addressing
Yeah.
it. So, no,
Yeah. The
it's
maps aren't going to
ridiculous.
change. And
No,
you know
not
what
at
was
all.
so funny?
Not
When
at
he
all.
said that, Hillary laughed out loud. And I'm
Well,
like,
look, let me
wait,
tell
go
you.
Hills.
But let me tell you, out of the pictures and the memes that I saw, that's hilarious. But Bernie is the funniest of the funny
Oh
because
my
the
gosh.
fact that
Yeah.
I never once saw a picture of him standing told it was a picture is worth 1,000 words with that, right? It's like, yeah,
Yep.
we already know where you stand, Bernie. We got it. We got it.
Yeah, he
We're
was
with
that
you.
face like in 27, was it 2017? Yeah, where he's in his mittens and he's like socially,
Yes.
no, what? No, that can't have been 2017 because that wasn't social distancing. But it was just the funniest thing. Yeah. So
Yes.
anyway, I'm joking and making light here, but there was some pretty alarming rhetoric, and I just want to
Yes.
read. I want
Yes.
to read this quote here. Um, During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. Our safety will be restored. The scales of justice will be rebalanced. The vicious, violent, and unfair weaponization of the Justice Department and our government will end. And our top priority will be to create a nation that is proud and prosperous and free. I actually don't think that is an alarming statement. I think that is, what the fuck are you saying? That just feels like short sentences with big flowery words that ultimately says nothing. Don't you agree?
Well, of course it doesn't, but that feeds back into our theory that we talked about before, Lisa, around people not wanting to buy into the 15, 20, 25, 30 page plan of how the Democrats were going to
Right,
fix
right.
everything, but more so the promise, yes, you'll fix it, and we really don't care how. That
Yeah.
statement feeds into it. All right, he said he's going to fix it. So anyone that is not interested in critical thinking will go along with that plan.
Yeah, it sounds good, right? So, ooh, those words sound good and interesting and smart.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so let's
Exactly.
move on quickly to the executive
Exactly.
orders. So I have a few on the list here that I wanted to mention, but what are the
Mm-hmm.
executive orders that you paid attention to as they were rapidly being signed in the Sharpie pen that he signs these things
Yes.
in?
Yes, the Sharpie pen. Well, a few that, of course, make complete sense in connection to the work that I do, obviously, was, of course, anything that's connected to climate change was very alarming to me, including rescinding the 78 executive orders from Biden's administration. That inherently is challenging and has a direct line to social determinants of health and context, and specifically underrepresented groups and marginalized folks that are constantly barraged with challenges that are climate based, yes, for everyone, but exponentially so for these groups. So that was one that really jumped off the page to me, obviously. Um, the other one, of course, was with moving the end of birthright citizenship. That one, I'm like, okay, here we go, tearing families apart again and being okay with that. Uh, my friends and loved ones who have a X marker on their federal documents. Now it's declared that the federal government only honors two genders. That one jumped right off the page. One of my very close friends that I used to work with at University of Maryland was the first person in the country to get a driver's license with the X gender marker. And so that to me was gross and sickening. And then, of course, just flat out, just universally terminating supposedly DEI programs, which I think is going to be interesting because some of them will take congressional approval, but other things are DEI. And of course, for people that are not professionals in DEI, they're not even going to realize that they're DEI and they're still going to be hanging around. So, for example, some of the US Small Business Administration's work, yeah, they might strike, for example, LGBT certified businesses, but they won't strike small businesses. And the small businesses are the ones that encapsulate most of the underrepresented folks. So it's going to be interesting to see if they even recognize what
Yeah,
they're, some of the things they do absolutely recognize what they're doing,
right.
but some they don't. And so, here we are. But those were some of the ones that jumped off the page that are directly connected to my work. And of course, our trans friends pretty much being banned from military service is like, okay, this is going to be interesting. How's that going to work
Um,
when you have people that have had career military years and they're
yeah.
no longer allowed? Are we going to do a don't ask, don't tell type of situation, or what happens to people
Mm-hmm.
that are already out and not closeted? So they all directly affect my work, all of it.
Yeah, and the birthright citizenship is interesting because that's a constitutional provision. So he can't just write that
Mm-hmm.
away with an executive order. But one of the arguments they have is that undocumented people in the United States are not subject to the laws they're in, which is like diplomats who are here, and thus if you're not subject to the laws, then you don't get birthright citizenship. But my argument would be, and probably many others, if they're not subject to the laws, then you can't arrest them for violating the law by being undocumented, because you just said they're not subject to that. So we'll see how that one plays out. That feels like patently unconstitutional to me, but he doesn't care. And the other, so the ones that stuck out to me were the pardoning of the 1,500 plus January 6th insurrectionists and rioters. And someone on the New York Times had commented that for him, that one felt the scariest. I don't think he used the word scary, but that a majority of people in the United States were not in favor of pardoning everyone, right? Particularly people who violently attacked police officers, violently attacked other officials, violently attacked the Capitol, and yet he did it anyway because that's what he wanted. So I think that is a demonstration of his belief in his unstoppable power right now. And then the other one, he stopped refugee processing. So there was an app, CBP1, just canceled that. So people that were anticipating their appointments on Monday, it just stopped working, and that was no longer available to them.
Yep.
So that's horrendous. And then the other one that I don't think got a lot of focus, but it's this one called Ending the Weaponization of the Federal Government. So it's an executive order that basically outlines the premise of which is that the Biden administration did all these illegal things and they weaponized the government against me and others. That's the starting point. So then he has instructed federal agency leaders under the Attorney General and the intelligence community chiefs to go and find all the ways in which political bias is infiltrating these agencies, and then bring back a report to him with suggested remedial actions. So the starting point is that there is illegal political bias happening, right? So the only thing I go to with this, Shaunna, is McCarthyism. Right? Like, let's root out the communists. Let's do these interviews, right? Like destroying lives, people losing their careers. Granted, it's not explicitly talking about rooting out people with political bias, but what do you suppose those remedial suggestions are going to be? They're going to be probably some form of a litmus test or some form of understanding where a person is politically, have they donated to campaigns, et cetera, right? All of that stuff is likely going to be coming down the road. And then you also have that coupled with the fact that he did implement Schedule F, which is like taking away all those protections of civil service workers, right? So now they are more easily fireable and more easily replaced with political appointees that will do his bidding. So
in addition to also for those that want to keep their jobs in the federal government, requiring them to return back to the office.
Yes, which we talked about
add that on top of that.
Yeah, right. I mean, that is,
we called it.
That is a huge violation of, not a violation. It is a way to whittle the employee base down to leave just people who have no family responsibilities, right? And who are mostly connected to him. So
yes, exactly.
A whole lot of shit happening. Pay attention. My niece texted and said, can he do that many executive orders? And I was like, he can do whatever he wants, but whether or not they actually get implemented will depend on whether they're found to be legal, right? Because you can only issue those orders within the bounds of the law. And he thinks he is invincible and unstoppable right now. So
and unchecked by the law.
Yeah.
Unchecked. The law, it is truly the definition of privilege and imperialism. That applies to everyone but me. Everyone but me.
Right. And then using the military, right? So, all right. Well, I guess that's our debrief, which I think was probably more of a shock and horror. How quickly can we reel off all the disastrous things? But take care of yourselves, I guess. But don't stop paying attention, because if you stop paying attention and you switch off, who are the people that are going to be most harmed, right? So if you have privilege, if you have the capacity to keep shouting, keep shouting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So there you have it, y'all. Keep shouting it, I think, is the best way to go about all of this. I realize that, Lisa, I don't know about you, but I literally scheduled my therapy appointment at 8 a.m. the day of the inauguration because I knew
Mm,
that all
mm-hmm,
this was going to hit
mm-hmm.
the fan. So I can't say that I personally was shocked by any of it, but I'm now at the place of,
Right.
you get to that place. We talked about this in our previous podcast too. The level of disappointment can be so deep that you're no longer surprised, but still harmed.
Yes,
Yes,
that's
that's
exactly. He's been telegraphing he was going to do all these things for some time. So in that sense, not surprising, but devastating
the
and harmful.
unbelievers. The unbelievers are getting a very hard and quick lesson. The folks that
Mm-hmm.
said, "Oh, he's just being flagrant. Oh, he's just trying to get the sound bite." For those of us who
Mm-mm.
took those sound bites seriously,
Yep. Here
you
we are.
get what you voted for. You get what you voted for.
You
Take
sure
them
do.
seriously. Take them seriously. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right, Lisa. Well, look, we only do these bonus episodes when it's something that is extremely important and affects a lot of people's lives that we serve. So, it's our hope, y'all, that you got an opportunity to listen in, even if you're like me and completely removed yourself from the inauguration on the actual day. Just know that unfortunately we've got 4 years to muddle
Mm-hmm.
through.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate, Lisa, your reminder to take care of yourself, but also to pay attention. I appreciate the balance of that.
Yep.
All right, y'all.
All
So
right.
thanks for listening in, and we'll talk to you soon. And there probably will be more fires to discuss, but until then, thanks for listening.
All right. Bye.